Welcome to Paris. Bonjour, je m'appelle Lily et je viens de les États-Unis, mais j'habitais en Thaïlande pour les derniers 9 ans. Mon mari, il est thaï et ensemble, on a 3 enfants. 2 petits-fils, Luc et Liam, et un nouvel bébé, notre fille Lyla. Et aussi notre nounou Nam, elle vient de la Myanmar et elle est comme ma sœur. Abonnez s'il vous plaît.
Les garçons mangent.
Les garçons mangent, ils mangent ensemble, les 3 garçons.
Les filles boivent.
Les filles boivent. Oh, elles ne boivent pas.
Les filles boivent.
Les filles, c'est plusieurs. Oh, c'est ça. Luc, il aime apprendre la langue française avec moi. C'est très bien, mon petit garçon. C'est trop bien, c'est mon petit-fils. Oui, très intelligent. Je suis très fière de toi. I know so many people think that learning a second language is a goal that's very far out of reach. But with today's technology, realizing that goal is a lot easier than you may think. So let me tell you about how I was able to learn French. I'd always had a desire to speak French, probably because I lived on the island of St. Bart's in the French West Indies when I was 6 years old, and I was only there for about a year and a half. So when I left, I didn't really have a full grasp of that language, and I pretty much forgot it by the time I was in my teens. During high school, I had such a desire to learn French, but unfortunately, the school that I went to had one French teacher for the entire county, which means she was there for 1 semester and then gone the second semester. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if she actually spoke French. So I knew by going to that school, I was never going to learn French, and really the only way at that time was to become an exchange student. So that's what I did. My senior year of high school, I went and lived in France and lived with a French family for 8 months, and I was completely immersed in the French language. But before I went, my parents helped prepare me by buying me a Rosetta Stone program, and I would practice French on the computer every day to prepare myself. This was 21 years ago, and since then their product has evolved so much. I'm so excited to say that this video is sponsored by Rosetta Stone because I know that this product is going to prepare many of you for your next travel adventure, and who knows, you might meet the love of your life because you know a second language. They use a speech algorithm technology where it takes your voice and it compares it to a million other native speakers, so you can sound like a native speaker and speak with confidence. Un garçon.
Un garçon.
Yay!
Un garçon.
You got it, Luke. And they make it so convenient. You can download the app to your phone, and the lesson plans are about 10 minutes long. So if you're interested in learning a new language and investing in yourself and your dreams, just click the link below for this limited time offer. You can get the lifetime subscription now for only $179. That's compared to the normal price of $299. And with this subscription, you have unlimited access to their entire language library. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in trying it out. So just click my link below.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun.
I feel like this is unreal right now. I'm just thinking about my times here before. 17 years old as an exchange student in Bretagne. Then I was an exchange student in university in Grenoble. Then I came here in 2011, which was the last time I was here. And I'm a completely different person from back then. Praise God.
Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.
Went into this little French hotel, had coffee because it was the first place that we could find that's opened. And
it's cold today too.
We had six coffees because they're not as strong here. The bill came to 34 euros plus orange juice. We're not in Thailand anymore, that's for sure. Nope. So I was talking to my mom about my first time here as an exchange student at 17, and I was thinking about like how much trauma I went through it, and Mom goes, "Trauma? What are you talking about? You didn't go through any trauma." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And then I started telling her my whole experience of it, and she goes, "Oh yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad." And then I went through a list of all the things, and then You were like, yep,
Yeah.
that was pretty
It was
traumatic.
traumatic. You forget about things over time. Thank God.
Well, you didn't go through it the same way.
No, and we just, we haven't lived in the same country in 10 years. We don't.
You
get to
didn't think
talk as
about it. I
much.
never talk about it because,
No.
and I'm actually just thinking about it now. I think that's why I
'Cause she's
feel a
here.
little bit, I don't know,
Out of
mixed
sorts. She's
mixed
out of
emotions
sorts.
being here in France because it is bringing back all these memories. So it's a little bit too early to get into all the trauma.
I agree.
Let's go
And my phone's
eat some
ringing.
more. Those pigs. How's that chocolate?
Good.
Luke thought this was America. It's not America.
Yeah, it looks so cool.
So the first time I ever came to France, I came as an exchange student at 17 years old, and I flew out of the United States September 11th, 2001. And I arrived in Paris. I took a train to Bretagne, and I got picked up by my French host family. And I got to their house. They lived in a beautiful house in the countryside. And I went to sleep because I was so jet lagged. And the next morning, they woke me up early and they said, time to go to school. I went to school. It was the most tired I've ever been in my life. I actually fell asleep several times in class, and I never do that. When I got picked up by the nanny that lived in the house. She was more like a housekeeper, a friend who had helped raise their daughter. And she had a part-time job, but she kind of ran the household. So she picked me up in the car, and she kept saying to me, "Attends, attends." I was like, what? Attends. I mean, I've been practicing my Rosetta Stone, but I hadn't heard of this word, attends. And I get back to the house, and she sits me in front of the TV, and she shows me New York City, planes hitting the World Trade Centers. And then they found me the translation of attenta, which meant terrorist attack. So the same day that I arrived in France was 9/11. And I actually flew through Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C. the same day that the terrorists were there. And for the 3 days after that, I would try to call America, and I couldn't get in touch with anyone. It was just a beep, 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 beep. I guess everyone was trying to call their family in the U.S., and so I didn't know what was going on. I remember going to school, and they did like a candlelight vigil for the United States. I still hadn't talked to my family members. After 3 days, I finally got in contact with my sister Marcy, and she was in Florida. My parents were living in Florida at the time, and she just tells me all of these worst case scenarios that she had been hearing on the mainstream media news. Mom and George were in Las Vegas. They ended up getting the last rental car out and drove from Las Vegas to Florida. And that whole year was bizarre because it was like I missed the whole thing of 9/11, but I was experiencing it on my own in France. And I remember having just really bad nightmares about things happening to my family. I was so worried that something was going to happen to my family, that terrorist attacks would, then they were... That's like there would be a terrorist attack and I would lose a family member while I'm in France. So at 17, that was a lot of anxiety. And that was a time before we had cell phones. I hardly even there was no computer in the house where I lived. And the exchange program made it clear, like, we should not be calling our families regularly, like one time a month. So that was one part of the trauma. L'addition, s'il vous plaît. One more flight of steps to go.
Look at these.
In Europe, the steps are steep and narrow.
Like shapes. This is our room.
Laugh.
Here we are.
Oh my gosh.
I can't hold this door anymore. I gotta shut it.
It's a little bit scary. Okay, you guys ready? Look, don't look at that. I don't know.
Look.
That is just scary. I'm just saying, can you imagine at night waking up and seeing that?
If you weren't expecting it, it was standards. This is a good sized room. I wanted to do something nice.
At least we have a bathtub. And wow. Look at this little pillow. It's like,
And this room is
okay,
expensive.
I know this is so expensive, but this is what it's like when you come to Europe. Okay, we get caramel. That's a nice touch. But I swear,
We're spoiled in Thailand. What are you laughing at? I'm gonna eat a piece of that caramel.
boo! Don't look at it, Luke.
At least she's covered. You don't need
Well, I'm
to
glad she warned us.
If I had walked in here and saw that, that would scare me to death.
That would scare me to death.
Better hotel, I couldn't get.
Well, the bed's soft.
I'll try one.
The sheets are clean. The pillows are square. But we're gonna stay grateful, right? But how much did this cost?
This room, $400 a night.
Shh. That is crazy. This is why you need to come to Thailand.
13,000 baht, whatever that is.
That's crazy. Why is it so expensive? Because of the area?
Area, I don't know.
There was nothing
expensive.
cheaper.
They had really bad rooms if you were much cheaper than this. Seriously. If you want to stay at a 5-star, you're going to be spending $1,000 more a night. So I
Wow.
looked.
I think we got spoiled in Bangkok. Okay.
Yeah. I stayed 2 weeks.
French
Yeah,
fries.
it was cool. I liked it.
Hi. This is light and delicious and fresh. I feel like I've just been transported to an entire different universe. And then all these memories of the past are coming up. I just feel a little bit off, to be honest with you. So when I got to France for the first time, on my own, first time traveling, I met my host family who I would be living with for the rest of the 8 months that I was there. And, you know, until you've really experienced this as an experience being an exchange student, it's really hard to understand how challenging it can be. The first few months were like bliss because it was so new, it was so exciting. I was in Bretagne and it was beautiful. The weather was nice in the beginning, but then it started getting darker and colder and grayer. And after that, it was that first 2.5 months wear off, then you start to get culture shock. And then you can get serious depression. And I went through, some depression there. And I was also dealing with a lot of trauma from my childhood and being away from my parents. And there's so much more to the story that I could tell right now. And if you want to hear the full story of my exchange program, then you can go over to my YouTube channel, Lily Hubbard. But yeah, I think my family just didn't understand me, and I didn't even understand me at all myself. I didn't understand why I behaved and did some of the things that I did. And the dynamic in the family became a little bit unhealthy. Me being there, having a new person in the house can really switch up the dynamic and can cause tension, and it can cause problems that you would never experience if you didn't have somebody else living in the home, in the family. There was one time when I was there at the house by myself, and the host mother, she called me on the phone. She called the house, and I had a terrible phobia, a fear of answering the phone. And if you've heard my story before, I've told it on my other channel about the trauma that I faced as a child and how we were not allowed to answer the phone because bill collectors would call and criminals would try to call because my dad was doing illegal activity, and we had people calling and making death threats on the voice recording machines. There was so much trauma from that I was so afraid of answering the phone, and she was calling me all day long and I never answered the phone. And then she came home and she was like, "Why didn't you answer the phone?" She could not understand why I wouldn't answer the phone. She was so angry at me about that. At that time, it was the hardest thing I've ever been through, being an exchange student. And I've been talking about it to my mom, the challenges that I went through, and being so different from them. They were so organized, so meticulous, and I'm a pretty sloppy person. The nanny, she confronted me about my sloppiness. And I remember just feeling so devastated and so not unworthy and so not good enough. But looking back, it was the best decision I've ever made because it made me grow as a person and it helped me learn French. I could speak better, but I can communicate, and I'm very happy actually with how well I'm speaking French on this trip. So that's why I feel a little bit of mixed emotions being here, because I'm thinking about all these past thoughts and I'm also processing them, maybe for the first time that I haven't really processed them. So thank you so much for watching. And if you are interested in learning a second language, please remember to click the link in the description box. Rosetta Stone is the best company, the best app you can get to learn another language. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. All the good times just begun.